Good evening, keepers of the cash. Gary B, the casual comic guy here, and joining me as every Tuesday, we have Steve the Voice White. Steve, how you doing tonight, sir?
Just fabulous, fantastic.
Thank you again for being the co-host.
Oh,
and of course,
problem.
our
My
special
pleasure.
co-host, and we drag her on the channel whenever we can because she's one of the best people in the community. None other than K-pop junkie herself. Katie, how you doing?
Hello, I'm good. I made it. We're here.
That's right.
Yes.
Challenges be damned.
Yeah.
That's right.
And of course,
Right.
you guys just saw the intro, of course, for my show, In the Hot Seat with the Usual Suspects. But a little bit of trivia for you guys. The very first live guest I ever had on my channel and opening my live shows was none other than tonight's guest, Mr. Jason Douglas himself.
What?
Jason, how you doing
That
tonight?
guy.
It's behind
Okay.
him. The guy behind
Right
you.
there?
Hi guys, so
So-
good to be here. Thank you for having me back
Hi.
on for the. What are we at? We had 100 shows, Gary. How many is this? Is 100?
Oh, I don't know. I think we're well over 100.
Okay,
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, it's been over 3 years though. I mean, you kicked off the 10-1 not the In the Hot Seat. So
Yeah,
it's just-
right. Oh, I remember.
So it's always like a bit of nostalgia for me, like that well-regarded nostalgia when we have you back on. It's like, well, this is where it all starts. It's always a full circle feeling.
Yeah.
You know, and here we are still talking books. I got my Jane America. I got the Parallel
Woo!
special right there.
Yep.
I got the
Nice.
other one signed, but it's I couldn't find it in time. It's packed up. But yeah, so exciting stuff. I got
Stop, you're
a slideshow.
embarrassing me. My imposter syndrome is going to kick in.
There you go. And I got all sorts of
snap.
stuff lined up for us. But just to kick it off, Jason, who are you? What are you writing? What have you wrote? And why are people that are watching here and on the rewind, why should they be paying attention to what you have coming out?
What a big question. Who am I? You know, I'm pretty good on my feet, right? Because I've been a public school teacher for the last 25 years, so I should be able to handle this question. But I don't know, the way you phrase that, I might go into some kind of weird existential crisis right now, trying
Do
to
it.
kind
Go
of
weird.
who I am
So-
in the world. This might be
Do it.
derail. You could just like 30 minutes of dead air of me just the gears turning. I don't know. That was a dangerous question. Oh,
Who
man.
aren't you? That might be the
Who
better
aren't
question.
I? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so you guys are looking at Jason Douglas. I am a comic book author. I say that
I
with a
know.
question mark. That is not the way to start this with a lot of confidence, my friends. Yes. So, day job of a public school teacher the last 25 years. Finally made my dream come true a couple handful of years ago, right? And got my very first script that I ever wrote published by Source Point Press called Parallel. Dropped right in the middle of the pandemic, flopped hard. But because of blissful ignorance, irrational confidence, when I didn't know that you were supposed to just move on, there it is right there.
That is right there.
Went off and did 75 freaking interviews with people like Gary, and the book eventually sold out, picked up a lot of steam, got me a couple of Ringo nominations, best writer, best story. Got to go out to Baltimore, present some awards in an award show, and then gracefully lose both categories to the guy who writes Batman. Yeah, there it is. There it is. And then we are on to kind of project 2.5, where for the very first time, using the wonderful community out there to help crowdfund something, and my new book just launched today. This is the thing that I like to do. I like to find some of my favorite people, two of which, I mean, Steve, we're looking at your wall back there. Favorite people, but like two of my favorite people in the world to talk to about comics are right here with me today, and we kind of have this tradition of talking to each other on launch day of a new project, and so that's why I'm here. And we'll get into the details, but you know me, I talk. You guys turn me loose on a question, and then suddenly it's like 10 minutes.
Okay.
Minutes.
I don't, but that's the
About
best
an
thing
hour.
about
Let's
you.
go.
Here's what I'm doing. I'm stopping here. This is rare for me, and then you can back it up with another. You can hear somebody else's voice for like 2 minutes.
Nice.
Right.
Ha-
But that's the
have
best
you-
thing. You want a guest that talks,
Yes.
right, Katie?
Yes. And he's a talker. I've seen him talk
It's
more than
true.
anybody.
Because you see me talk live.
I've seen you talk
Right.
live in person. And I've seen you sell out of Parallel
somebody-
every time you've done a
Pull
booth
somebody
thing.
out of that
Yes.
convention crowd and just like lure them into the net. pitch here and
Oh,
pitch
I
there.
am so good at the luring of them, and then I'm getting them into like him talking about his spiel into the stuff, and he sells the things. But yeah, no, we're a good team.
We're gonna be doing some work together this weekend, right?
We are. We'll be at the celebration. A to Z. Ooh.
I gotta get some PR advice from him for my stuff.
Well, who wants a teacher that doesn't know how to talk? Like, come on, that's
Right.
your job. Your function is to.
More importantly, if you guys
form.
can scan that QR code, you can get to Jason's link tree right there.
Yeah,
Amazing.
Yeah, that'll get you. That'll get you my email. That'll get you my Instagram. I think I've even got the link to Kickstarter in there as well. But you hit me up on Instagram, and I will talk your ear off there too. I will type a lot, not just talk.
Post it.
Oh, Gary,
The
you're
link works.
teasing the giveaway already. Look at that.
Boom.
Link
Well, yeah,
works.
because I thought we talked about
Boom.
parallel and the giveaway,
Yeah.
and then
Okay.
and then we'll start talking about Jane America.
Oh.
First, we'll talk about the first part that came out, and we'll
Yeah.
lead it into what you have coming out. But
Sounds
real
good.
quick though, before we do this, let's just give a quick nod to those who have joined us so far tonight. So let me remove that, and of course we have Las Cruces. Good evening, James. Nice to see you. Kevin, Entropy and Comics.
Hey, James.
Hi,
Great to
Kev.
see you.
Kev.
We have one of our co-hosts, Mr. Steve White.
Oh,
we have
look,
one
there
of
you
my
are.
all-time favorite people, Jerry the Jitterbug.
Jerry.
Another person that Jason
Oh,
Douglas
Jerry.
is very familiar with, none other
Nice.
than Digger Jim.
It's a
Your other
recap.
co-host.
Jim.
We have Circumstances here.
Marcus.
Marcus, how you doing tonight,
Marcus.
sir? We have
Got
the Art
Jay.
and Times of Jay
Yes.
Ryan. Great to see you.
What's up, Jay?
Oh,
Jay.
thank you so much, Marcus.
I like this.
All right, we have
video.
Mr. DVH. Good evening, Dr. Von Hoots. Great to see you.
Hootie hoot. Let's go.
DVH.
We have Rad Art and Comics.
What's
Always
up,
good checking
Aaron?
out.
Yes.
Such great stuff on his channels.
All the peoples. Nice. All the homies. I did try dropping it, but I got bounced back from dropping the link. So
You're a mod on my channel, aren't you?
let me try. You know what? I'll go to the actual channel and then try posting it that way.
Because if you're
That
not,
way people can link it. Hold on. Let's see if
right?
this works.
Because if you're not, I'm gonna have to make you a mod. I can't. That would be an oversight on my part. Especially
That's
since I
okay.
don't want
That's
someone.
you know, what is this? StreamYard is kind of strange. So let me see. Can I paste
Right.
it?
And
Let's
we'll,
see.
of course,
And
given
did it go?
we'll
through?
keep giving a nod of the hat to everybody as they come in. But so this first, we'll get back to Jason here, and we'll add Katie as a mod. This first book here, in the Jane American, we have here with a brilliant
Ooh.
cover. Jason scribbled on it up there.
Nice
I was really
I
happy
like
because
that.
he didn't use the big crayons this time, so it was nice.
Oh,
Aw. It's so much fun when he uses the big
Unsharpened
crayons.
Crayolas.
A fun read, but this was just a passion project for Jason. I just want him to go into a quick 5 to 10 minutes about what this is. I know there's no
30 minutes
guys, for those of you
to an hour.
watching, there's no such thing as a quick 5 to 10 minutes with Jason. So I'm just gonna let him talk about this a second and how this leads into what he's got coming up. So
Yeah.
Jason, let me make you big again, and I'm gonna add Katie as a mod. Well, you tell everybody about the first Jane American, if they can still get it, or where it's available, or if it's included with the one that's coming out.
so we'll save the big pitch for the Kickstarter and the book that we're talking about today. But like for those of you interested in like kind of that process stuff, or anybody who knows anything about these books as they've come out, like it was actually not the original plan. Because like anybody who knows the parallel story about how atypical that was and how that book came to be and how, first time script writer and then a publisher snatches it up and it goes out into the world and the journey it took, like not the way comics are made in the 21st century. And so I think some of that weird, naive nature that I had, it's the 12 and 15-year-old fan that kind of motivated me to write these things in the first place. And it just took decades and decades to do it. I kind of had this idea in my head where the next thing was Jane American, the graphic novel, the thing that we're promoting here today and got launched today. And I had already written like there's basically 4 chapters in it, 4 parts in it, and I had written all the story beats and blocked it out and knew exactly what it was going to be and where it was going to go. And then people much smarter and much more experienced than me said, like, no, because if you're going to crowdfund this, if you're going to go down that route, it's cost prohibitive, right? Like you don't whatever success Parallel had, whatever reputation or standing it gained me is not enough to sustain what is basically a $20,000 plus campaign for a hardcover or softcover on Kickstarter. Like I would have stepped into that world and it would have crashed hard. And smarter people than me said, no, what you do is you tease it, you do almost proof of concept with something smaller. And so the one shot was not the original plan. The one shot became what was advised to me to do first, and then the one shot turned into like its own kind of like this beautiful little experiment / living, breathing comic on its own, where certain elements of the bigger story were taken and then fleshed out and made different and made bigger. And I got to play. What was kind of cool was, Gary's showing you one of the covers, but I got to play that game of, the collector in me got to feed the hungry thing of having, multiple fancy covers. Right, and I got to embrace the 90s Valiant shiny chromium comic nerd in me.
Shiny.
And the soft touch laminate, which I know this doesn't make very good television. It's not, 4-dimensional, but like this has got a soft touch laminate on it, and it feels like an old comic and looks like one.
Oh,
so I kind of got
feels amazing. Yeah.
And
got like that suede feel to it.
Yeah, totally. And it looks old, feels old. I couldn't get the smell, but 2 out of 3 ain't bad. It'll get you. And so like we did my very first Kickstarter a little over a year ago now. And what it did from a practical standpoint, beyond getting me much needed experience in how comics are made in the 21st century, is it was successful enough, or so successful enough, to allow me to do what I'm doing today. And I don't want to get ahead of it, but one of the things that I'm most proud about the campaign that we're launching today is it's still production-wise a $23,000 book because of the page count, because of the hardcover, because of the softcover, because of the artistic team of a very high caliber that's on board, and the very special covers and the people who did them. But that is not what I'm asking for. I basically cut that cost down by a ×4 margin, and our goal is only $5,500 to get it funded into the world, because what I did was took every single penny beyond paying the creative team, did not take a penny for myself from the original Kickstarter, and just put it into this to defray the cost, because it means so much to me that this is a project that gets funded and is affordable for everybody to get their hands on it if they want it, as opposed to some number that makes it possibly prohibitive for a story that I really want to live and breathe in the world from doing that.
And in that first one too, like, it left you wanting more, because you finally got the aha moment with the main character.
You're right.
You wanted to cheer for her. You wanted to see her do more, and it left you wanting the next part.
I'll tell you what, Gary. So like you and I will talk. You and I will talk process every once in a while, and you and I will talk that creative urge to make things work, and when stuff is in its raw state. And I'll tell you what, that was an interesting and fun challenge to take elements of the character, elements of the story, flesh it out, turn it into it was a challenge to turn that 32-page one shot into something that could stand on its own and is a complete story, and you can sit there and enjoy it, but also leave the audience wanting more. Not in that,
to see her next step.
Yeah, I mean, and not necessarily in that thing that sometimes drives me nuts about monthly floppies, about half of this storytelling is literally just to make sure that I buy the next one. Like, I wanted you to be able to read that one shot and feel good about it and understand it and feel a certain sense of completion. But also, you're right, throwing in that element of there is more story to tell. And if you're interested, well, we're here today, right?
Right, exactly. Well, and that is the trick, right? Because you can't just leave a cliffhanger without leaving a sense of satisfaction behind. There's a reason, like you said, with the monthly floppies, a lot of it is the cliffhangers are very base. Like you feel like you're missing out on the story. Whereas with the first Jane American, you didn't feel like you were missing out on any story. You just felt like you wanted more story with her, and just to spend more time with this person, with this character. But you certainly weren't left feeling dissatisfied in any way with how her story went. It was with her, you were just going on her path of discovery, and it was great. And and just the time she was living in, the responsibilities that she felt she had on her shoulders, and then all of a sudden just to have all these new things thrust upon her, and then how her character addresses these things because of who she is.
Well, all those kind of story points and even themes that you're kind of hitting on, I mean, it does nothing but exacerbate in further reading. I mean, it just gets bigger and badder and hairier for her as it goes on, for sure.
And of course, if you could talk about the family connection with this story with you.
Well, I'll tell you what. Yeah, this is like, it's a very personal story to me, but on a different level than Parallel was. I mean, Parallel was personal to me because, you know, it's like this dark sci-fi twisted tale about a character who's going through a quarter-life crisis, the existential dread about time passing and dreams deferred. Everybody has their version of it, and it might have been a bit of a midlife crisis that got me off my butt to write it in the first place. And thus, you know, exercising those demons and also, you know, fulfilling this dream that I'd had since I was 12. I mean, that's about as personal as it can get. But that's, you know, even though the themes of that book might be relatable to, let's be honest, everybody, because everybody past a certain age goes through some version of it, it was still as something that itch that needed to be scratched, that creative urge was me that needed to do that. This is much more broadly personal to me because, like you mentioned, I mean, it's got a lot of family names in it. There's some family history in it. But it's set in the town that I and several generations of my family before me grew up in. One of the main settings in it is this real life factory that my great grandfather worked in before World War II. And so there's like this huge amount of kind of like stuff tugging on my heart as I write it, as I promote it, as I get set to put out in the world, because as we'll probably talk about in a little bit when we talk about the story, like it's really about fulfilling this promise specifically to my now passed on grandparents and what they meant to me. And especially for my grandfather, who was still around when the book was being built and was part of the research process with me right up until the end of his life. Like there is like this huge weight on me, and not in a bad way, but just in a very powerfully emotional way to get this story into the world, because it's a promise that I made them, that this would live and breathe, and the personal connection to our family and to them would see print.
Nice. Well, I want to touch on two things that I like in this story before we go on to the slides I have ready for you. But one of the things I like, well, in the day that we live in, everybody's obsessed with making everything harder, everything grittier, everything's got to have an edge. The thing I like about what you have and with this character is she has an innocence and a hope to her that the time she lives in, though rough, don't take away from her. The innocence and the hope are her main strengths. She's able to see the world, and it doesn't have to rely on everything being darker, edgier. There's things that are happening in the world around her that are that, but that's not the focus here. The focus is innocence, hope, discovery, coming into one's own. So those are things that I don't think we discover enough in today's media, which I think, shouldn't be forgotten.
So there is, I mean, how much of that is deliberate and how much of that is just because if you think about what I'm immersed in day to day, right?
Right.
Look at my day job. I am literally teaching in the middle school, which is this crux point in life where innocence meets reality, right? Where especially like with my 8th graders, right? I mean, these kids are 13 turning 14 and becoming literally in the medical sense, like self-aware for the first time in their lives and thinking on their own and not just what's being fed to them. And like the idea that, every single one of those kids from the most outwardly projecting confidence and coolness and however you want to label it, they still have like this core that is still much more connected to when they were 5. And there is this, some of them a bit more on their sleeve, but some of them just like in this little core in their heart. But there's this beautiful and wonderful innocence that is kind of being poked at and ruined is the wrong word, but maybe by the experiences they start to have in the world that is starting to encroach around them, and to kind of watch that and part of every day. It's honestly one of the big inspirations for this book, and why I wrote it, and kind of who it's dedicated to, because watching that happen is, especially with like the themes of this book about being self-worth and identity and self-fulfillment, like it kind of breaks my heart that these kids are struggling with these things that my grandmother struggled with 80 years ago, but it's in the 21st century. And I feel like we should be past some of it. And yet I watch it every single day. So like her as a character in there is definitely coming from that spot that you mentioned. But like, as you'll see, as the book goes on, like past the stuff that you've already read, I mean, man, I don't want to dissuade you from your, this is a light and airy book, because it does. I mean, you're not going to walk away from this one with a lot of like ambiguity, like you do at the end of Parallel, where you can look at that in a very, very dark lens or a very hopeful lens. Like this,
right?
There is a lot of uplift and there's a lot of hope in this book. But that world that you know, when you read the one shot, that is dancing around the fringes of Jane's life, but
right,
not necessarily fully encroaching on it quite yet. There's going to be some of that, you know. I mean, she has got to step up into this role, and with that comes this whole world that maybe does not want her there or her to be who she is. And you and I both know what a lot, unfortunately, the world does to people who they don't think belong there, and it's not usually all that kind or all that nice.
Correct. Yeah, and you know, as someone who's a father to a son that turns 14 this month, the lessons I'm always trying to teach them are, you know, it's like, look, you cannot worry about what other people say, what other people think. You have to, you know, it's no matter what's going on around you, you got to have your own confidence. Is the hardest thing to teach young people, I think.
You can't. That's experience.
Because, well, no, but everyone's always trying to take it. People in the world that we live in today, they try to take confidence away from other people to make themselves feel powerful.
Right.
And trying to teach your kid that what somebody else is trying to do isn't important. That's their problem and their issues, and you can't solve that for them, but you have to take care of yourself and make sure you're good. That's a tough balance, because especially when you're a parent, because if you teach it wrong, sometimes your kid will show up. So you gotta know how to approach it, because at this stage they're in a protective state of themselves. They're still developing. They're worried about how their developing place in the world is becoming, because they're starting to think about how they fit into things. So
there's Gary, there's this literally the fourth marking period of every school year with the 8th graders. There's this unit that we do that has all of the academic elements in it. Like there are the novels we read, and there are the papers that we write, and the grammar that we do. But like the overarching theme of it, the IB theme of it is greater good. And like Steve, you're right that you can't teach it, but you can model it, and you can talk about it, and you can try to find a way to make it accessible to that age kid. And like one of the things that we do is talking about like almost turn it into a math equation, right? Like something that they can understand about putting a plus into the world, right? Like that nice thing about putting a plus in the world as opposed to the negative. Because as soon as you attack, whether it inflates you for a minute or not, you are literally taking something out of the world, and the world is now less. It's like the zero-sum game. And putting a plus in the world, even if it doesn't necessarily, you know, benefit you, which is the definition of greater good, you know, willing sacrifice of something that you can give up without expecting anything in return. Like you put that plus in the world, and now the world is richer because of it, whether it's like opening the door for somebody or saying that kind word or just not being a jerk. And then the chances of it coming around and benefiting you actually go up. Whereas when you're taking that stuff out, it even if you get that temporary high of now I'm better than this person,
it still takes away from your soul.
Yeah.
Well, and you could speak to this too, because not only as a parent, but probably on a larger scale because you're a teacher. But, you know, for me, my main concern is always setting the example that I want my son to see.
Yeah.
And I want him like, all right, because he's like, oh, Dad, this doesn't scare you. This, and he'll start talking about something, and he goes, how come you don't talk about it? I'm like, because it's negative. I like other people focus on negativity. If that's their focus, that's them. I go, you got to focus more on the positives. And like when you see a kid or you see them learn that lesson, and you see them get that little bit of sparkle in that it's okay for them to be them. It's okay for them to think differently and to not do things that necessarily deject or take away from someone else. When you see them learn a lesson like that, it feeds back to you exponentially too, because that is like a personal, like, it washes over you. Like, I put some good out there. It affected somebody, especially when it's someone you're close to, like your students or your own children.
Yeah, I'm a way better teacher than I'm a parent. And I think my own teenagers may not argue with me on that at all. And like, I think, especially for this book, one of my motivations is always looking for another avenue to communicate something that I feel really strongly about, right? Like you run it, like as a parent, you run into that brick wall of no matter how you say it, what you say, that kid is just not going to listen to you, right?
They just can't hear it. Their perspective's too different.
Yeah. And like, when there's something kind of magical about, I think you and I have had that conversation in the past about like comics specifically being like the most malleable of mediums, right? Like it does all the things that prose can do and a bunch of stuff that prose can't. It does all that stuff that film can do and a bunch of stuff that film can't. And especially in indie comics, when you have that ability to tell any story that you want without 80 years of editorial mandate telling you what you can and cannot do with a character, like I see it just as an educator and even as a parent as an opportunity to communicate differently to different people about something that I feel passionate about, that maybe when I go like this or even model it, it doesn't connect, and maybe this does.
That's something that you're so good at. I've seen this in person, so I could explain this. So when you are having an event or something, it is amazing to me how much not only of your current students, but of your past students, and not only the students, but their parents come to line up to meet you, to support you, to buy your books and talk about it. But not only that, you are inspiring a totally new generation of kids, not only to read comics, but to create comics. You do a lot of things on the side for like young creators that want to do like either writing or get into art for books. I think that is amazing. So super kudos to you for that.
I mean, it's like we can talk about that stuff. And as I think about it, like on one level, like the goal is just to get it to as many people as possible, right? Like spread the word, like put this out in the world, put parallel to as many people's hands as possible. And hopefully it reaches some people and they feel less and they talk to somebody, right? But put Jane American in as many hands as you can, and you feel less alone and you feel more comfortable being yourself. And I this thought came into my head because I love to think ahead. I've got 3 master's degrees. One is like a teaching and curriculum one is in pessimism, and one is in it's like a superpower master's degree in forethought of the worst that can happen.
Only 3?
Only 3, and those other 2 are not very marketable because they bump people out. And but like the superpower of like forethought of like the worst that can happen is like I hear myself going, I want to sell 1 million copies of this because I want 1 million people to read it, and I start to worry like, oh my god, it sounds like he's like fame and fortune hunting, and then I go back and like, yeah, but if I just tell them that I've been a public school teacher for 25 years, like nobody's going to believe that I'm seeking fame and fortune, guys. This is public school teaching, right? Who nobody has ever gotten into for fame and fortune ever, and indie comics, where again. There are it's somewhere north of $0 and somewhere south of 12 cents a year you about make.
Or negative, either one.
really, like when I really think about it, it's oh god, it sounds almost treacly, but like it's about as pure of a thing as I've got going in my life. Where it's like dark as my inner world is, I cannot express to you how much more pure my desire is to get this story out into the world and hopefully have people connect to it.
Well, having said that, let's get to the slides I prepared. Now we'll get to this when you want to. You let me know when you want to talk about that. So we're talking about Jane American tonight. So right here, we'll talk about. You can talk about the Scene of Grace cover here, and when we're showing these guys, I want everyone that's watching, rather live or on the rewind, go check out the description. Jason's bio is there, plus every link to every author. To every artist is in the description as well. So you can go follow them and see what projects they have coming up and just discover more about the people that put their time, blood, and effort into what we're showing you here.
Go look up Cena Grace, my buddy and superstar right now under contract with DC Creator, putting out best-selling Superman books, and Jonathan Kent, son of Superman books.
Go watch Cena's posts; they're amazing. They're most you want to lift in your day. Just go check out his posts.
That artwork is phenomenal. You know,
yeah.
The artwork.
So when we were talking about it, I basically said Darwin Cook vibe, and he ran with it. And we went with the, kind of the tricolor thing, and then wrap around. And I think what kind of popped into my head with this was, I love the hardcovers on my shelf, whether they come out of a slipcase or not, where the art almost means more than anything on the cover or whatever. So like kept the back cover pretty much clean. Where it just almost lives and breathes on its own as this piece of art, almost separate from what's inside of it. And so kind of that's what we went with, and that's what he produced, and it's just gorgeous, and I can stare at it.
Amazing. It looks like Paper Girls. It's that same type of artwork.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Yeah, and that's, I think that's the color thing, by limiting the color palette, and then
very simple, and it's effective. I like that.
All right, so we'll get to the next one here. There we go.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so this is our soft cover, and this, it presents as like a soft cover because you got your synopsis and you got your blurb on the back. And Lauren Nalepa did this. Now, Lauren Nalepa is an art teacher in the school district that I grew up in, and she is. I'm only allowed to say certain things, but like within, let's say, a month or two, she will be an exponentially larger name in the world of comics than I will.
That's the Lauren.
She's got some stuff cooking, but this is a human being that I have known since she was quite little, and she has turned into an amazing artist and now an amazing art teacher. And she did this cover for us. And without, we're staring at it, so I got to be very vague about this. But this cover has actually got something going on it that is the only one of the two that actually gives away some major content. The later chapters of this large.
So go to the Kickstarter, guys, and study this on the big screen.
Yeah. There's definitely some clues in here, without going into too much detail, that you might be able to guess some direction of what happens later on in the book for sure. But I love the color. I love the colors in that, and I love. We did the wraparound where it's got the translucent kind of spine.
Yes, I see. I love that in the spine. We can still see the artwork. It's great.
Right.
All right, so we'll go to the next. Yeah, beautiful stuff. And then we got some interiors here, and we'll let you talk about Annie.
Yeah, so Katie can back me up on this. Annie is our interior artist. She is 22 years old from Muncie, Indiana. And this is her first book, and she's still in school. And anybody who picked up the one shot can just look at these pages right here, these preview pages, 3 of the 5 that we've got up on the Kickstarter right now. And you can even see the massive amount of growth just over the last year.
It's been so good. Yeah. And you guys were talking about the innocence and the reality setting in. She nails that in the art pieces. She nails that innocence type vibe with the characters, the emotions, but she also gets into those raw emotions in those faces. And I love to see her express that in her art, because she's just grown so much since last year.
So Katie, that was honestly, back when, so Dr. Christy Blanche is the editor, is one of my 2 editors on this book. And Dr. Christy was basically the person who put Annie and I together. Because Christy's got, Christy's like the multi-hyphenate in comics, right? She is a super talented writer. Yeah. She's a heck of an editor. She is a retailer in Muncie, and she's one of the most in-demand convention panels, moderators out there, right? Like she's flying all over the country and moderating some of the biggest panels. So she's like this multi-hyphenate, and Annie was actually a customer in her store when she was just a kid. And like
Amazing.
Christy like knew her art and knew that she had a certain style and a certain flair. And really, Katie, I mean, you remember talking about this. What sold me on Katie was her, even as a kid, like that innate natural talent for emotion and facial expressions to be able to portray that.
So good.
And
like,
bodily expression too, because if you're looking at these panels, right? Like you have the one where she's muddy, her arms are out, she's got a tough stance. The panel right before that, she's appealing. And you can, it's a whole different emotion in two different panels. You go to the next one, there's some shock and awe, but you see all these different emotions just in these panels on these 2 pages of what this character is going through.
So if you go back to the one before this with the stuff in the river and the creek, so this was to talk about how much she's grown. So this happens midway in the book, maybe a little bit before that, and it was just from a, you know, making the sausage perspective, like how comics are made. This, when she drew this scene, it was kind of like her dry run with me to make sure that certain action pacing, you know, something that she did not come to me with and something she's kind of learned over time. And this little small scene right here was like what, you know, Dave Lentz, who is my letterer and my art director, and I just looked at and go, oh, here we go. The fact that she nailed this, and because like some of these pages, and I won't give away what, but some of these pages were very, very tightly scripted by me as far as panel pacing, size, layout went, and some of them I gave her a lot of a lot of freedom on, and she proved herself and then some. And like Dave and I were talking, we like looked at each other and said, oh God. So like when that, oh, you know what this means, don't you? Like when that next scene comes up, she's gonna crush it. And then when that next scene comes up, oh my God, she's got this, you know.
I am
like
so
that
excited.
over the last year. It reminds me, for my comic nerds out there, it totally reminds me, because even though you're going to see this project as this whole complete thing, right? But because I've watched it develop, you know, behind the scenes for so long, it reminds me of like that first time I read, do you guys know Alan Moore's book From Hell?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like watching the art on that literally changed, because they took years to kind of put that out, and it was like serialized or whatever. And watching that art get better and better and different and more skilled as the book went on. And it just watching her over the last year develop as an artist has kind of just blown my mind. And you know, it's still her, because I see everything that sold me on her on day one, and yet it's so much beyond that at the same time that it kind of just, it catches me off guard every once in a while when I can just slow down and look at it.
And what I like about this art that I appreciate, right? So, and this again goes to one of my nitpicks with sometimes that you see in modern artists is it's not too busy. It's clean, effective art. It tells a story. It moves you along with the narrative, whereas sometimes some artists get obsessed with getting a little too busy, and it muddies up what's going on, and it takes away from the impact of the storytelling. Yeah. This is just simple. It's clean. It moves the story along, and it involves you emotionally with the characters.
Yes. Yeah, her art style is so unique to Annie. It's phenomenal. I really love what she does, and I'm so excited to see what's going to happen in this book here, because I've seen a couple of the preview pages that we've seen here. But yeah, so far, my favorite panel, it's still my favorite panel from the original one shot, is where they're in the kitchen eating the cake with that little kid's joy on his face, or he's eating the cake, the piece of cake. That is still my favorite panel I have seen. So I cannot wait to see more of what Annie has done in this book, because I'm so excited. It is so fun to see her art journey over the last year, because she has grown just so much, and I'm so excited. Yeah, so shout out to Annie, and I did post her link in the chat for her Instagram. So go check out her. She's been phenomenal.
CJ, this is a continuation from the one shot.
Yes. So it's a continuation, but the entire story is here. So something else that makes this really unique is all those story beats from the one shot are here, but it won't feel like it. For two reasons. One, it's in a different order. It has different beats. There are things added. And then, Katie, all those pages, like your page that you love so much is at the beginning of
nice.
Travel, but she redrew it all.
I can't wait to see that. I can't wait to see that.
You'll be able to do a compare and contrast. But what's kind of cool is, and what got me really excited and not at all like feeling, because like normally I think I would feel a little bit guilty, like, oh, you know, if you've already got the one shot, now you're just rereading it. Absolutely not. So like, Gary, you talked about the cliffhanger ending at the page 32, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's like page 12. Like that is not, it's like not the point. It's in this different order, and it actually reads the way that I intended it when I wrote it. You know, like I told you guys, like the one shot was this side rail, like this offshoot of something that I had to do to get us to this point. And so like it always bothered me that I had to order the events the way I did and moved it around because I had to end that one shot the way I did. And, you know, we get that traumatic moment for her when what she can do is triggered like very early on, and then get to the other stuff. And you immediately, see her like trying to grapple with that in the world and how she deals with that. And we get to see her, grieve in a way that when dad's not coming home in a way that we didn't get to in the one shot. So like all those things are there, but it's kind of like, I don't think I've got this quite under wraps on how I'm going to talk about it, but like it reminds me of that thing that you watched as a kid and then you revisit it as an adult. And it's not the thing where it's a thing where you view it as an adult and you don't dismiss it. You go, oh God, I was seeing this thing as a kid through very different eyes. Like it reads
like a whole new lens.
Completely differently. At no point do you read any of those pages or beats that maybe you read before and go, oh yeah, I can just skip ahead, Like it is not that at all. It just reads differently because the context comes in a different order. So like you'll get to like Katie, you'll get to a scene that you remember being at a certain point in that one shot. And because it now comes after a bunch of stuff you haven't seen, you go, oh, that means something completely differently to me now. And it just, not only does it look different because she read the art, but it reads different too, which I actually think is kind of cool.
Right, it adds some layers and some depth to it. So
because it doesn't rob you of any of those great things that you liked, Gary, about the one shot. Like it's not like you have to go back and get it. Like it's there for you, but it just reads differently. And I don't know. I actually got excited about that as opposed to like getting a little worried about, I'm just rehashing old material.
Well, do you want to go to your Kickstarter page right now and take a look at that?
Why? What's going on?
Have you seen where it's at so far?
No, I did the paranoia thing all morning, and then most of the day, and then because I've done a couple of I was on a thing right before you guys, and then like I said, I tried to shove some stuff in my mouth. Are we doing okay?
You're doing fantastic.
Review.
Yes.
You're doing fantastic.
We'll go up
there.
there.
Beat me to it.
Oh, so, look at that!
Well, nice. That's not bad at all, is it?
No. So before the show started, you were at 53. Decent.
Oh no way!
So I'm not saying our show got you those, but I'm saying it's just doing well. It's still going up.
I'm saying
every time I look at it, it keeps going up more. So that's amazing.
Well, I mean, I'm okay. So I mean, if you like look at that goal, right? I mean, like that, it's there to be attainable, right? And then if we want to get into the stretch goals at some point, I mean, you can even compare those stretch goals with the stretch goals that I had last year. And I just, so experienced Kickstarters will probably look at my stretch goals and like with the numbers I put on it and like laugh at me because I know, and I get this. I understand that there are people who do this because it is the way that they make their living and make things happen. And I get that. And I respect that. And part of the stretch goal is to really push it into a realm where even though it's still economically feasible for the person doing the Kickstarter, it helps them get to a spot of even more financial stability. And if you look at mine, it's like it's kind of joke amounts because those things on there are things that I just really, really want people to have. So I made it kind of ridiculously low so that.
But there's another foot to that too, though, Jason, because I've seen people set their expectations too high and seen the project fail because they overshot.
Yeah, and
sure.
I obviously I wanted to avoid that too. But yeah,
I mean, because it's a good thing. And Do you want me to play the trailer or?
Oh, God, you do what you well. You can play the trailer.
We're taking
you know what? You can play the trailer. You can have. I can talk the trailer, but the music is good too. So if you're gonna play it, I gotta tell you before we do this, before you click play. I am going to usually, we try to stay humble, whatever. I am very, very proud of this trailer. Not because it's some spectacular piece of work, but because it is probably the most technologically advanced thing I've ever done on my own in my life. You are looking at a public school teacher who, like 20 years ago, when they came into my classroom to take my chalkboard out and put in a whiteboard, which is not a technological advancement. I still threw an archaic fit because how dare you make me advance on any level? The fact that, like, I imported images and cut things and put music in because my teenagers would not help me this time. I'm very proud of the fact that this thing holds together. Yes, show it. Oh, God.
Those uppity teens. All right, here we go. Let's play it.
I want to see what happens.
All right, so there we go. So that's the trailer, and let me just get this reduced, and we'll get back to everybody. So, all right, so that's the trailer. So nicely done, Jason.
Thank you.
The music's perfect for it.
Yeah.
Do 40s.
Right. Oh, and we already got another backer. Look, you're still going.
Rock and roll.
Very
I found
nice.
that. I found that little that little thing at the beginning, like that newsreel kind of blurb, was actually like a sound effect that I found rather than a song that I had to grab. But ended with one of the great jazz guitarists, Django Reinhardt, there at the end. Yeah, had to throw in a little self-effacing humor down at the end. Written and produced by me, but I don't know how. But yeah.
So your backing's going good. So you already got 62 backers. It's still climbing. All right, so again, we're talking 132 pages.
Yep.
Whew.
Some Kickstarter exclusive covers from Sina Grace and Lauren Nalipa. So beautiful covers, and right there again, we looked at it, but
and then
of course I did include Dave Lentz because lettering and trade dress are very important, I think.
And he's my art director too. So, like, when Annie turns in a page to us, it goes through both of us. And like, I might talk about script points or, you know, this detail, or that detail, but you know, Dave's the one that keeps those arms straight and keeps everything in perspective and stuff like that. And yeah, he's doing a lot of heavy lifting on this. So like on the credits page that I just sent him to design the other day, like I made sure like, I'm like, Dave, you need to talk about multi-hyphenate. Like you are like 3-4 different jobs on this. So you need to put all of those on the page or I'm going to throw a fit. Like I get the 1 credit, you get 3 or 4, man.
Oh man, he's been knocking it out of the park too. He's been in so many projects since last year. It's amazing.
Like he's a workhorse and one of the sweetest humans I know. And we have actually become very good friends. And like it is, you know, we sit there and when we're not talking about this, we're actually just nerding out of the comics that we usually X-Men for me and him, and then he likes to talk about his turtles, which I'm less interested in, but I let him
turtles. Nice.
What is she holding up? What's she holding up there?
Oh, those are Marston mats. Those are one of the height, you know, very realistic elements, historical elements in this book.
Nice.
It's actually what the factory that Jane's mom and dad worked at, and now Jane works at. So Marston mats are those, even if you don't know what they are, you know what they are. They are the corrugated kind of metal sheets that were made into temporary runways in the Pacific and the Atlantic during the war, and then actually used up through the 60s. Huge part of the Berlin airlift in the 50s. It just allowed you didn't have to take over a runway. You didn't have to capture an airstrip from an enemy to be able to launch your planes, and you could make them out of those. And so like something that happened in the Detroit metro area was, you know, the car companies, you know, Ford and GM transferred all their plants to make tanks and planes and bombers and stuff, but all like the surrounding kind of smaller factories were making component parts and other things. And so Wall Wire was this place that was in Plymouth, Michigan. And my great grandfather actually worked there in the 30s when he came up from Indiana for WPA stuff, you know, FDR, getting the economy back on track stuff. And they got a war contract in the 40s to make these mats. Right. So you're making bombers down at Willow Run down the road. And then right down the road here in Plymouth, they're making the mats that allowed those things to take off from anywhere in Europe and anywhere in the Pacific, which is kind of cool. Mm-hmm. And they are actually one of only 2 factories in the country that kept that war contract after the war, which is when, you know, Jane shows up there in 1946.
Now, I want to ask you about, because this is something that's important to me in books, and I noticed, I just noticed it. I can't believe I didn't notice it before looking at it. Is you have a foreword here, and and it was important to you. So by Alua Richardson.
By Afua Richardson. So if you talk about like I know for my comic fans out there, how exciting it is to have, you know, Cena on one of the covers, and how exciting in retrospect it will be for a lot of you to have that Lauren cover there in a few months when you realize who she's about to become. But Afua is a force. So Afua is one of the most talented artists, writers, and personalities in comics right now. If you love a Black Panther cover, there's probably a good chance that she did it. Her Marvel Voices covers are unbelievable. And she is maybe talk about confluence of like interest, you know, like your multi-hyphen. It's like the people who can do more than one thing spectacularly. Afua is maybe one of the most incredible cosplayers at a convention, and yet she's on the other side of the table as somebody who's got a line out the door to go up and get her books signed. I actually got to be right next to her. We were next to each other at Dr. Christie's Muncie convention back in the spring. And so like the last time I had seen Afua was like at Motor City Comic Con. And her line was like down the main street of the thing of people going to check her out. And then I got the table right next to her in Indiana a couple of months ago. And it was a delight. And then we got to talking about this and we got talking about that. And I'm just so honored that she wrote the foreword for this book. And it's a doozy. It's one of those ones where maybe it's worth the price of admission in and of itself. She says some pretty powerful stuff in there, and I'm really excited for people to read that.
So you're 2 for 2 with forwards because your parallel forward.
Yeah, not bad, right? Yeah, yes. Like strong powerful, 100 times smarter than me women, creative powers in the comic industry have now written my two forwards. I could not be more honored. Honestly.
Right, because when I got Parallel the first time and I read that forward blew me away.
Oh yeah, Casey's forward. Well, she's off writing books about Greek Stoicism right now, and like blowing the world away in a different medium. So she is. I was very lucky to get that one too.
Yeah, and I think forwards are nice. It's a nice intro. It's a nice way for someone to set a tone in your mind before you start reading anything that's in the book.
Makes it feel like a real book too, doesn't it?
It does. To me, it does anyway. Maybe we're just old snobs that way, though. Yeah, we're not. But I always appreciate a forward.
Yeah.
So we got the making a pledge, and again, I want to highlight this real quick. So we have, and this is something if you don't live in the States and it's too expensive to get it shipped to you, it is digital. You can do just like our good buddy DVH here did. And you can back it digitally because he lives way, way away, and it would not be cost effective for him at all, or for Jason to send him a book.
I am trying to stretch out though. I caught. I don't know if you remember this, guys, but like I caught some serious grief with one shot when it was just U.S. shipping. So like I am dipping my toe into North American shipping, and it drives me nuts how expensive it is. But like I'll always do a very, very reasonable digital there, because if somebody wants to read it somewhere else where it's ridiculous to get that book there, then I want to make sure that they can get at it.
And if somebody wants Parallel right now, I went on my comic shop. They got 2 copies right now. They've got a cover, and they have one of the 100 rare ones in a CGC 9.8.
Oh wow. Well, Parallel Special Edition you can still get on Amazon, and you can still get through Simon & Schuster. So like those ones are still out there, and I've got a couple copies left myself. If you want a signed one, you just hit me up on Instagram. But like, but this one, I made sure that it's digital across the world and North American shipping as well.
Digital is key. That's one thing when I published my short horror stories I learned from you guys is I wanted, and that's why I didn't go Kickstarter. I wanted global access, and digital is just, it's so key because people can still read it. They can read it on their phone, they can read it on their Kindles, they can read it on their MacBooks, whatever they have. But so you did something new this time. We got enamel pins.
Hand painted enamel pins, getting into the game, guys. I love them. Katie, had I started last time we were together at a thing? Had I started my habit of just like literally weighing down the side of my shirt with a bunch of pins for people to stare at?
No, that wasn't a thing yet. And that was for Comic Book Day. So that was just a few months ago. Yeah,
watching their eyes kind of drift down and seeing something subtle, and a lot of times without names on it, trying to get them guess, is that what I think it is? But like, I love a good enamel pin, and we've got this beautifully designed one. Dave Herndon did these for me, and I've got them. I've actually got them already, and they're downstairs with my stuff, and I love them. I'm like super excited. Like just for me, I'm super excited to wear it to like conventions and stuff, and hopefully people will like them too. But it's based on that Cena design, and they really took their time on it. And we've got the black, we've got the blue, and they even did the red up on the bandana. So they look really, really nice, and they pop.
So good. I'm excited. That's the bundle that I got.
Yeah,
and it's a good iconic stance for the character.
Yes.
And that stance really speaks of that time period too, when you had the propaganda posters.
Oh, for sure.
Everything else going on.
Yeah. It's very much empowering, like the women, but also like like Rosie the Riveter type thing.
Right.
I love it.
Now let's talk about your parallel giveaway in correspondence with this too, Jason. How's this working?
Okay, so a little bit of context. In the same vein of making the goal for this book like 4 times lower than what it actually costs, because I just want it to exist in the world. I want people to get at it. Something, and that's been a plan since day one. Something a bit more recent, something that comes out of last year's one shot, was, as much as I loved my fancy covers, there was something, because like you and I have talked about this, Gary, and Katie, I think we've talked about it too. Like I am literally split down the middle as a comic person, right? There's half of me that is pure reader, right? It's about the literature and it's about the art. And then there's the collector half of me, and they're often at odds, right? I mean, I'm chasing my keys, I'm chasing my variants, and I'm chasing my runs. And rarely do those two halves agree. And there was a battle because as much as I love those covers, the collector in me last year, part of me also, the reader in me is like, yeah, but then when it hits the shelves in a comic shop, the regular cover, for a 32-page one shot, what is that? Like, that's like $6, maybe $7 tops, right?
Right.
And then you've got your fancy cover that's 20, 35, or 50. And so what I did, if you look at the price points of the hardcover and the soft cover,
we'll get up there.
What you'll notice is, in a lot of Kickstarters with like a wraparound cover, that kind of beautiful art, the exclusiveness of the Kickstarter, especially that hardcover is going to be on most campaigns. That's going to be $80 to $100, and that soft cover might be 40 to 50. And if you look at the price points on ours, it's the same as it would be on the shelf in the shop. It's 20 and 40 because I just want people to have it. But long way around to the question that you asked. The comic collector hardcore nerd in me needed to get in the last jab, right? So do I have these very affordable price points for the hardcover and softcover? Yes. But for my collector nerds out there, for the rare thing, I am giving away my personal 9.8 slab copy of, this is not just the Donnie Darko variant, this is the foil. Okay.
Oh.
So this is the one that, the exclusive, the shop that this came from, State of Comics in Plymouth, Michigan, right? I think Ryan told me this version, because they did the regular trade dress Donnie Darko variant, and then they did the foil one. This foil one, I think he said sold out in like 20 minutes.
Oh, man.
And like, there's a handful of slabs that CGC's got on file, but like there's like 1 or 2 9.8s are the highest. And we saw a 9.6 sell for a ridiculous amount of money last year. And so my copy, one lucky, and what's cool is if you back the project at any level, whether it's digital or something else, like you were entered in the contest to win this. Okay.
Oh, nice.
And I don't care where you are in the world, I will pay that shipping and we will get it to you. And then obviously at the different levels, you get different entries, but at the end of this campaign, I'll make a post and one lucky backer is going to get this.
And that's always the number one cover that people ask us about when we're at your table. Like, where's that one? How can I get that one? Right, you're like, well, exactly. You
can't. It's stunning, right? I mean, it's so cool. It honestly, I'll tell you what, like the comic collector in me, it started because it is a Donnie Darko homage, right?
Right.
It has started me down a rather dark path of movie homage variant covers that so I almost got, do you know Deadpool Merc with a Mouth?
Yes.
Like 12, it's all 13.
Oh, there's so many of them.
I mean, most of them are movie homage variants, and there's a couple other ones, and there's like a Lone Wolf and cover or whatever, but I've got everything except for 7, and then the movie just ruined the fact that I'm probably never going to get 7 because 7 is Lady Deadpool, and I can't bring myself to spend that money on it, but like I almost got there, and that's the
when you do a John Carpenter's The Thing homage, you let me know.
Oh man, I'll tell you what, I'll let you know, and I'll scoop up several copies for myself because that right there, yes, thank you, yeah.
And also shout out to Lex, who did the variant cover for Parallel on this cover, and woo!
Yeah,
she did a phenomenal job.
I really, for the special edition, I really, really do love that cover that Lex Lyon did. Yeah, we were at
your banners look fantastic.
Where were we? We were at Traverse City together.
Yeah, I think she came back for it was the other one
at Capital City Comic Con.
Yeah, Cap City. And, yeah, because you guys all ran together. That was the first one.
Back and forth, so we got like 2 signatures on that cover and stuff. Yeah,
it's so good to see her back doing cons again. I know she took a break for a bit, but I adore her art. I'm so excited for her Doom Kitty stuff to come back.
Yes, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Now talk about your stretch goals here a second, Jason, as we're getting into
so absolutely, obviously very reasonable ones. Didn't shoot too high for that because I want everybody to get their shout out, and I'm working on the back matter right now. I just finished the end notes. Talk about all the Easter eggs in there and historical references and further readings, and we're going to put a teacher's guide in there. I'm I'm really excited about the signed book. Let's talk about things that make your book look really fancy and official. How about on all the hardcovers, a signed book plate sitting there with a triple signature on it with a
Wow.
date. Like that'll be pretty cool. And then I've already got that fancy reading bookmark. What do you call it? The ribbon that's just going to automatically. And then I thought, rehashing old ground, yes, but it was so popular last time. I want to go back to the war bonds, and it'll be a new war bond. And anybody who backed that last one got that $500 war bond, and how cool it looked, and how historically accurate, and how fun it was as a thank you.
Oh, that was one of my favorite parts of that.
Yeah, it was cool
with a different design. So those are my 4. Yeah. Then we got our meet the author stuff, and then I'm big on the transparency thing, right? And this is a teacher in me, cross your T's and dot your I's and make sure everybody, knows exactly what's going on, right? And so
printing is expensive.
Here's what this campaign costs.
Look at the printing.
And you scroll down to the next one, and here's what we're doing instead.
Production, $23,000.
Yep. I mean, that's it. That's just the reality of a campaign this big, how much that book costs. But because of the success of the last one and me turning it into, if you find it hard to believe that this is not about money for me.
Here it is.
I mean, look at that. That is me not taking a penny from the last campaign and instead putting it into this one to make sure that people get to read this book.
Well, let's hope it blows way past the number.
I don't think it's going to have a problem. It's let me go back up to the front here. It's off to a good
where we
start.
are now.
Let's see. So, all right, we've gone up 3 more backers in the last few minutes right here.
See, my page is in Canadian dollars.
So we've gone. So Jason, in the last hour, you've gone from 53 backers to 64.
That's awesome.
64 backers.
So cool.
It's $4,823 Canadian.
Now, if he can keep on this 11 backers an hour pace for the next couple of days,
we can end the campaign early.
We'll be good.
We have operators standing by.
I mean, I don't like between you and I, like the degree of difficulty that I think I create for myself, because if you look at those dates and you know what my day job is, you understand what the overlap is, right? It's the last week of summer and the first weeks of a new school year. I don't know why I just did that to myself, other than, I really wanted
sociopathic tendency.
Wait, Katie talked. Well, yeah, just glutton for punishment, I guess. But what Katie talked about earlier, and I really like. Look, sending out the messages and doing whatever campaigning I've got to do, but like I like talking to people, and I like doing this, and I like the live situation of being like at an event and doing that. And the reason I picked the end date I did is because that's Monroe Pop Fest, Monroe Comic Con, and it just that's the last weekend, and it'll just be like one of those things where, hey, last chance, and get to talk to people, person to person, and so I kind of want to be there. You're gonna be there?
I'm gonna be there. Yes.
All right. I'm inside this year, not outside. I was outside last year, where I learned that wind and your banner do not mix. I learned that. I swear to God, here I am, like this middle-aged man. Again, every single thing that I experience is brand new, because it's usually like the first, maybe the second time I'm doing this, and like you look at me out there, and when something goes wrong, you're like, oh my God, are you 12? Why don't you know anything?
Yeah, but
there I am watching this expensive metal thing like bend in half and go,
oh no, not your beloved banners. Banners are so cool.
I'm eyes and chicken wire, like trying to do a little frontier medicine. And
how cool is it though?
Safe inside on a corner booth this year. It's going to be
how cool is it for you though to have a banner with that was themed to your own product, right? Like that's it. That's your own nerd moment there too. Like,
yeah,
my banner.
Well, Gary, like no joke, like these highlights, just like the last 5 years have been like, because I grew up as like the teenager in the comic shop, like when my book was in previews, it was nobody in my house cared, but I was like jumping up and down, the banner, the first page, the first time there's someone's letter, the first time there's a physical copy in your hand, oh my God, the first person who comes to my table with the CGC dude to have the signature witness, like what is happening,
right?
Oh, Now that you have the one shot's been out, I hope you get some cosplayers coming up to you. That would be amazing. I would love to see that.
See, here's the thing though. Like I can totally cheat on this because like anytime you see a Rosie the Riveter cosplayer, whether it's intended for me or not, I can totally fake it till you make it and pretend that it's for me, you know, and be like, "Oh yes, that's a Jane American thing." They're like, "No, it is. It's okay. Let's take a picture."
Also, it is highly fun making people take dorky photos with you in front of that banner.
Yes.
Good
exactly, Jim. You let her know. Get some overalls, Katie.
Now, don't tempt me. I will do that. I will be middle-aged Jane American in my overalls.
Right, you're middle-aged Jane American selling your youthful.
I could do that easily. Let me tell you.
Now, Jason,
I'm down.
Let's talk about when do people expect that are backing this to have this book in their hands?
Oh yeah, so that's the other thing that was a huge advantage over kind of having a head start by using the capital that we built up from the one shot is like I turned Annie loose on the art right away. So I think, you know what? Let's do this for real. I will tell you exactly where we're at. So I'm going to go to our platform where Dave, Andy, and I hang out and move pages along from sketches to pencils to inks to colors to approve. So I just approved pencils. God, what do we got here? Yeah. Annie's on page like 102 right now.
Ooh.
Whereas, so like, I thought we did a pretty good job last time, where we ran that Kickstarter in May, and I think I sent the bulk of books out the last 2 weeks of August, and maybe the last shipment went out like on November 1st, which is, you know, a little bit of time, but not bad because like I'm sure everybody watching and listening has backed the Kickstarter where you get it in the mail 2 years later and you're like, I don't even remember.
Yeah, you forgot
what it is. So like we did pretty good the first time, but like this one, I mean, obviously we wrap September 14th, and you know, I'm saying November at the latest, but we're hoping to do that even a little bit earlier. So maybe that last week of October and that first week of November. So even a tighter turnaround than before. So especially if you've got, I don't know, let's say that this book and everything that it's about and the themes or whatever are not completely your jam. If you've got like a young reader or somebody who you know could relate to that or needs that empowering kind of story or is struggling with their own identity or whatever, and you want to turn that into a holiday gift, like I'm timing it perfectly for that, I guess, too. So
yeah. It's really interesting too, because a lot of the people too that were buying comics during the free comic book day, some of them weren't even comic readers. They were just there for their children's, but they liked the local history about that being in the book, and that's what gravitated them to buying that. So I'm wondering if they bought more comics based on just that for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, you've got that small town kind of vibe to it, and you're going to be able to see your own. If you grew up in that kind of environment, you're going to be able to see that in there too. And obviously, people like Southeast Michigan people will be able to actually recognize some of that because, like, you know, the Penn Theater in Plymouth, Michigan, plays a role in this, and that's a pretty iconic place.
Oh yeah,
and so you know, there's a lot of stuff to kind of grab onto and make your own in this for sure.
Nice. I was just looking at the pledges again too. So I think too, I just want to reiterate it, even though you already said it. For a 132-page graphic novel, this is very affordable.
Yeah, like I said, like that was one of the things. Like I wanted it to be the exact same price points as it would be if you bought it from Barnes & Noble or bought it from your comic shop. Like I get that these are your Kickstarter exclusive covers. Like this will be the only spot that you can get the stuff that we have on offer here. But I also didn't want it to be cost prohibitive because the messages and the themes in this book are something I want everybody to have access to and not just collectors, which is kind of why we threw that giveaway in there too. Because like I said, like I needed the collector in me needed something fun as well. And the enamel pins kind of fill that niche as well. But like, yeah, you know, like, honestly, if we're being completely honest, price point wise, book that size, especially when the back matter gets added to it, when you hit that stretch goal, that the soft cover wraparound is probably at the bookstore closer to 23 or 25. And so to have it as just that $20 book is actually even better than on the bookshelf. So Yeah, definitely part of the plan.
Nice. Yeah, I was looking at. I got to figure that out after. Let's see. I was trying to add add-on, but I could like the add-on button wasn't working. I got to get on there. I don't think it's I think I have to go to a different section.
Okay.
If you already pledged, you got to go to manage pledge, and then
that's what I just did.
Don't mess the top one. Just hit next, and then it'll take to the add-on page.
Katie understands this.
I got you.
That's because Katie's a guru.
Like Katie taught me, like after we were live last year, and there were things that I couldn't change. Like I needed Katie so bad because she understood things that first time through with this. I'm like just going, because like when you're at my level, like some of this is going to be coming from family and friends and stuff like that too. And like when my mom got on there and she wanted to like do an add-on and she could just for the life of her could not make it happen. And if I had just had Katie there to talk her through it, maybe. But like my level of ignorance was like just a half step above my mom's. And like genius expert at all things Kickstarter. So
your mom is such a fangirl. It's amazing. She drove down last year to go meet you because she did not have one of the covers.
I know. She brought like my sister, my brother-in-law, my two nephews, my mom, and my aunt who was in to Cap City, Katie.
Oh no, that would have been amazing.
And just like gathered it was adorable.
Yeah, you were my first ever Kickstarter guest on my show last year. You were my episode 3. And then I wasn't even doing them like weekly. I was doing them like once every other month or whatever. And then Gary reached out and was like, hey, a homie, he's got a Kickstarter who wants to do interviews. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be a chicken. I'm going to be like, yes, I'm going to have him on there.
Gary's like, this guy's been on my show 45 times.
It's like somebody else. Give it to somebody else.
So there you go. You got 2 people here where you were their first time guest.
I know.
So because of you and how much fun I had, I was like, screw it. Let's do it. This is fun. So thanks to you, I've started my full career of interviewing people.
Oh, that's great.
It's amazing.
Now, so we've been going for an hour 20. Let's start the wrap up here. So, Jason, what are some of the final messages you want to get out to anybody that's watching? Your final Hail Mary, even though you don't need a Hail Mary, but
I'll tell you what. So, like, the thing that I noticed, we've talked a little bit and played with the idea of like the fanboy in me getting all these kind of like magical fulfillment things, like all those different stages, like getting the award nominations and seeing your first page letter and having your first book in your hand and all those kind of like wonderful things that are just like magical moments. And yet all of that pales in comparison to what I think is the most satisfying thing to come out of this entire experience, the whole writing comics and getting them out in the world. And with Parallel, it was whether it was somebody like on a show in the chat or somebody at a show who came up to me and said, or reaching out on Instagram and hit me with the DM that I always respond to and saying like, I read your book and I was going through what I was going through and it like made a difference. It made me feel less alone. I started talking to somebody and it helped. Like that's 1 million books sold, 1 book sold. That one interaction made it all worth it. And so with this, there's basically 2 things. And the one is very much the same as that. If this book ends up in the hands of one middle-aged human, one 75-year-old human, or one teenager, and they read it and they connect to it and they go, it's going to be okay to be me. If they take that away from that, all of it's worth it, right? And then on an even more personal level and actually connecting those 2 things. Because, with those themes, this book is just full of those themes about identity and self-discovery and being yourself in a world that tells you something different. And then because I'm a comic nerd, we've got a 15-year-old who lift stuff above her head and run faster than the rest of us. But like those themes, as relatable as they are to everybody, it's also this deeply personal story to me because it is named after and inspired by my late grandmother who went through all that stuff 80 years ago. It is dedicated to every single kid who's gone through my classroom the last 25 years who still struggles with those things today, even though it's the 21st century and we should have all that behind us. Kids should be allowed to be who they are. And then it's very much dedicated to my late grandfather, who at the age of 99 last year, when he realized he wasn't going to get to see 100, and he was so integral to the research phase of this book, and a lot of the realism you see in it and the places you see in it are stuff that he and I researched together and made sure it's a realistic book in your hands. When he realized he wasn't going to make it to 100, and boy, as a World War II veteran who, as he got older, truly believed that I think he won the war single-handedly. This is a strong-headed human. He was not happy that he was not hitting that 100 because that was like a goal. But when he realized he wasn't going to make it, he made me promise him that the book that contains the name and likeness of his high school sweetheart would see print. So this is me, fulfilling this promise to him and to them, and putting what is a very personal story to me and themes that I think need to be seen more in the world, out in the world. Me fulfilling that promise to everybody else.
Nice. And day one, you launched just hours ago, and you're already at 64% goal in your first day.
Not bad.
Congratulations.
Not bad.
That's a quick start, I think. I think that's a good start. Right? Because
amazing start.
Right? Because you're not Dynamite Comics putting out a Kickstarter.
No,
you're not a big property putting it out.
I will look, we got a long way to go. The more people the better. But I will be able to sleep tonight. And a lot of that is thanks to you guys. And I truly, truly appreciate the time. I truly appreciate the platform. And more important than that, that I truly appreciate you guys.
Now, Jason, if people want to hear you talk about this some more, I think you're going to be on someone's channel we know tomorrow night already.
There's a rumor going around that we're going to do this again tomorrow night with this lady who's like, talk about like taking the internet by storm. Like, this is a person who is commanding a corner of the fan universe at a level that is really unprecedented, and her peers are few and far between. It's going to be an honor to be hanging out with Bob herself,
and and one of the best giggles on the internet.
Thank you. Yes. Tomorrow at 9 we'll have Jason. Also, if you want to see the two of us spaz out and nerd out in person, this weekend is celebration at AZ Comics in Garden City, and we will be there. I will be there Saturday. I'll also be there Friday, digging around for books for myself. But yes, come join us.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at Celebration at AZ Comics in Garden City, Michigan, and you and I will be teaming up on Saturday and trying to get these books into people's hands and getting people to back it.
Yeah.
And by the way, I take full credit for that friendship.
You should do. Yeah, definitely. Oh, did the Halloween weekends open up yet for registration? Do you know, for Greenfield Village, or is that probably at the end of the month? Because if not, I gotta figure out a date, because I'm definitely going this year. I missed out on a date last year.
My wife is in charge of that, and we were actually. Here's something. I was at the Village last week with owner and operator of A to Z Comics, Rich Ray. We were walking around, getting photos of this piece of machinery that he wrote a song about, and then
that's right, he did. He's got his CDs.
I was talking to my wife, like texting while we were going, and she was like, "Oh yeah, Halloween weekends. It's probably pretty soon." It's
got to be soon. I think August, September. Yeah. We'll figure that out.
I'm sure she knows exactly when, because we like to get on there right away.
Yeah, nice. It
starts with a local talk, guys.
so we are Garden. CJ.
Yeah, of course you did. I'm surprised you didn't say you had that in Greece first, because I thought Greece started everything, right?
We're gonna forego the regular what we have coming up, because this is about promoting Jason and his Kickstarter. The only thing we're gonna mention is that go see the Queen of Kickstarters tomorrow night, K-Pop Junkie, where she will probably do a way better job presenting this Kickstarter than I did. But she will have Jason on. You can get more of him, and then I'm sure after Katie's show, he's gonna have more shows to tell you where he's gonna pop up. If you want to follow him, and the Jane American Kickstarter story. I know that tomorrow night, I'm looking forward to seeing where your Kickstarter's at once you get on Katie's show.
Ooh, yeah.
Right? So who knows? Maybe you could be fully funded.
Woo!
Woo,
Right?
let's go.
And then it'll just be the happy kid eating cake from the first novel on there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Now, once you're fully funded, you need to post that picture on your IG. Fully funded with the kid cake.
Yeah.
But no, Jason, thank you again for reaching out. Thanks for coming on the show once again. You know, you're always a welcome guest. We appreciate you coming on and being here, of course.
Guys, Gary, Katie, Steve, it was a pleasure. It was an honor. Thank you very much for your time. Love you guys. This was a lot of fun. Thank you, everybody, for your support, and we'll talk to you soon.
And Steve, Katie, thank you for being co-host.
Oh, you're welcome.
And I got to find my brand. As I like to end these things, guys, we're going to say, keep it casual.